Hey, what's going on, beautiful people? Episode 25, blood pressure. We moving along. 25. That's like a quarter of the way. I appreciate you all for being here. Nutritional wellness guy here. And this episode is about blood pressure. Numbers don't lie. Now, when it comes to blood pressure, today we're going to talk about the fact blood pressure is known as a silent killer. And the reason for that is that there's usually no real symptoms. We're going to talk about that today. That's why we're going to cover some red flags. There are symptoms. Your body is telling you things. However, traditionally, they say there's really not many symptoms until it's too late. That's when you get stroke and heart attack and even other chronic illnesses. Actually, it's the number one risk factor for heart disease in the U.S. and it may even be around the world. So today in this episode, we're going to cover what are the fundamentals to blood pressure. Also, we're going to cover some common red flags, which I call symptoms. So I always believe that our bodies are signaling us of things that aren't going so right. We just don't map out what things mean. We usually write things off as we're just tired or we're stressed out or we're just having a bad season or bad day or bad whatever the case may be. I want us to start honing in on what our body is telling us because it whispers before it yells. You guys hear me say that a lot. Then we're going to talk about some micro habits. It's one thing to know what are the symptoms or what are the red flags, but it's another thing to start getting some tools and strategies, which I call micro habits because these daily habits stack up over time. And this is what gives our bodies a fighting chance. Our bodies are very intelligent. God made no mistakes. So I want to cover what are some of those micro habits that we have in our circle of influence, which usually just means under our control, that we can contribute to positive blood pressure health. And then my favorite, as we all know by now, as the chef foodie I am, we talk about some superfoods, foods that are easy to access, as well as this very affordable. So these are foods that I kind of have researched and from experience and scientific data and evidence driven foods that show to help improve blood pressure. After that, we talk about some naturopathic and holistic practices that you can incorporate into your lifestyle that can give you an edge. I mean, there's things you can do outside of just eating well and working out that can also improve blood pressure health. I'm really big on herbs and spices, a lot of roots, and I want to share a couple of those in this episode as well. And these are also things you can get your hands on. Now, I'm Chef D, your nutritional wellness guy. I am a nutritionist. I am a certified personal trainer and a behavior change specialist. I am not a doctor, so I'm not here to treat, cure, or diagnose anything that's happening with your blood pressure health. However, this is for educational purposes only, and I'm here to help provide strategy, like I said before, and tools so you have a fighting chance and you're not just stressed out by the numbers because let's face it, if you've been living here in the States long enough, you may have dealt with numbers being used as a fear tactic to get you to start prescriptions or medications or whatever is going on at the time that feeds the pharmaceutical engine. Now, don't get me wrong. I believe medications in the right setting make sense because sometimes we are pretty far gone in our health journey and we do need some help to get back on track. But I do not believe that the medication should be a long-term thing. Now, in special instances, hear me on this, there are autoimmune diseases, there are genetic conditions and diseases and other factors that happen in life that some people may need that as the best route for them. I'm not saying that's for everybody because, again, I believe that nature and earth offers a lot of beneficial and medicinal items to help us get to homeostasis, or which is a balance. But I'm not ignorant to the fact that there are conditions and diseases out there that may need to rely on pharmaceuticals and medicine a little bit more than other conditions. This platform is about prevention and maintenance. So always be clear on that. We're about prevention and we're about maintenance. How can we ensure that our blood pressure health does not get to the point where we're so far gone? How do we start looking at some of the signs that may have been trying to get our attention and we just couldn't connect the dots? So let's connect the dots today. So first and foremost, blood pressure is literally the force that is pumping from your heart. And when it comes to blood pressure, it's pumping against the arteries, and blood pressure is helping move around oxygen and nutrients. So blood pressure in its sense is not a bad thing. We usually hear, blood pressure and we kind of get scared. But it's usually when it's connected to high blood pressure, or there's a thing as low blood pressure. One of the things about blood pressure, it's almost like a hydraulic system for your organs and for your blood. So your heart is doing a lot of work, and it's up top here, so it needs pressure to get things around the body for circulation, for movement. And this is why it's important to have healthy arteries. This is why it's important to have healthy blood, which I'm excited. We have a blood episode coming up kind of down the road. But again, it's something we don't talk about often about, hey, how do we have healthy blood? How do we have healthy blood cells? How do we get more oxygen into our bodies? And this is that episode in a sense, but the one that I want you also to tune into is on Saturdays when we do our Coach's Corner. So Coach's Corner is a very near and dear spot for me. It's on Saturdays, and I introduce one of a good friend of mine, a guest who specializes in this particular health function. I think this Saturday we might have two guests coming up on the same. This might be the first episode where I have two guests who are discussing blood pressure health with all of us, which I'm pretty excited about. Usually, if you've been following this journey so far, there's just one guest. So I'm pretty excited to see how that dynamic switches up a little bit, and also to see where things are aligned or contrasted in opinions or professional advice. You know what I mean? These usually my guests who are coming on are usually naturalists. These are naturopaths. These are holistic practitioners. These are herbalists. So I'm looking usually to get a unorthodox, unconventional point of view when it comes to the health focuses when I bring my guest on, just so you know that. Now, let's talk about the fundamentals of blood pressure. So there's usually two numbers, and you got systolic and you got diastolic. So systolic is the contracting part. So this is the top number. So when you're looking at the pressure when the heart contracts, it's the systolic number. Now the diastolic number, or the diastolic number, forgive me. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I know. Even in school, it's so crazy. I'm the one who tries to spend extra time. I go on Google trying to hit the icon to hear the enunciation of things and how to pronounce certain things. And I'm working on it. That is literally my kryptonite, but I'll never give up. I'm always, even on camera with you all, I will keep practicing these words and I will keep trying my best. But again, you have these two numbers. So the diastolic number, there we go, is when things are relaxed. And these two numbers should usually be on average 120 over 80. And that's the number that a lot of people, especially professionals, are looking at when it comes to where your markers are. So when it consistently rises above that, this is when you start getting artery damage. This is when your organs are starting to suffer. Your eye health starts to suffer. You're dealing with things that come with pre-diabetes, cholesterol issues. You're dealing with a lot of hypertension issues because your pressure is rising, which is making it harder for the oxygen in the blood to get from the heart to the rest of the body and from the rest of the body back to the heart. And this happens again when you're eating ultra processed foods at a very unrealistic type of way, when you're not being active, when you're over consuming alcohol, when you are over or excessively smoking or vaping. These are things that could potentially cause negative effects on your blood pressure health. Again, you have to live. Life is life for you. So this is not a shame section. This is not, oh, you drink, you smoke, or you eat ultra processed foods, or you always eating fast food. Shame on you. No, what I'm doing here is sharing that these are contributors to blood pressure health issues. Sometimes people have never been shown that those two dots connect. They have not been shown that alcohol or excessive smoking or hookah or vaping or even snacking is a contributor towards blood pressure issues. You have an idea, but the dots weren't really connected, because I believe, for some people, if you know better, you actually do better. So I want to kind of help with that. I feel like sometimes this information is not out there. So you can buy the person's magic pill. You can buy, you can agree to go on medication and give the pharmaceutical company more money through insurance. But I'm here to show you that your body has been intelligently designed, and with the right tools, the right knowledge, and the right strategies in place, you can support your blood pressure, and you could be at a place where you're not shrinking your artery walls, and you're not getting migraines and headaches and getting dizzy because you're eating the right stuff, or at least you're compensating. So I got you guys today. We're going to talk about some hacks, some life hacks. So if you are at a place where you still got the fast food thing on lock, or you get a little drink every here and there, you smoking, I want to share some compromises. I want to share some life hacks that you can start incorporating to help compensate for that lifestyle until you get to the place where you want to be. No one should be forced to that place or guilted to that place. You should be able to get to a place where you say, hey, I love me enough that I actually want to make this change. I want to quit doing this, or hey, I want to start doing this. It should just come from the heart, the spirit, and with more knowledge. That's how I feel about certain things. So when it comes to these two numbers, what we say 120 over 80, which is the systolic and diastolic, one of the things that you need to understand is that when it's not taken care of, you are damaging your kidneys, you're damaging your brain, and you're damaging other organs around the body that's counting on blood pressure to be at a certain rate, because again, that's when nutrients and that's when oxygen circulation is very important. Let's get this clear. Blood pressure is protection. So if your blood pressure couldn't move, if the blood pressure wasn't where it's supposed to be, then it couldn't move things around the body, and it couldn't help with removing waste, and it couldn't help with moving around nutrients. So blood pressure is actually protective. So when it rises and when it lowers, it's just trying to adjust based on the environment that it's in. But too much pressure, again, as I said, it wears down the arteries, almost like a garden hose, like water going through a garden hose. And a good garden hose that stays lubricated and is flexible and is quality, it's okay. The water has no issue. But one that gets brittle, one that starts to get plaque on the inside, it makes it harder for water to pass through. And then what ultimately happens is cracks start to happen, inflammation start to happen. I know I'm talking about the garden hose, but imagine I'm also talking about your arteries, and then you start dealing with other complications. So when it comes to hypertension, like I said before, it's the number one risk factor for heart disease and stroke worldwide. Another thing that I have written here is about 1 in 3, I should say typed here, 1 in 3 US adults have hypertension, but many don't even know it. Even small reductions like lowering your systolic by 5 points can reduce the risk of stroke by 14% and heart disease by 9%. And we're going to talk about what are some ways to help lower your systolic number. Blood pressure naturally fluctuates with stress, sleep, hydration, and even posture. So chronic high pressure is in the danger zone, and that could be contributed to posture or a sedentary lifestyle, meaning you're not moving enough, or you're not intentional about how your body is staying liquid. So remember, we talk about stretching. We talk about doing classes like yoga, Pilates. That's the new craze right now, Pilates, which has been around forever, surprisingly. Even just some static stretching or moving stretching works out. Getting in the gym, that's never a bad thing, but it doesn't always just have to be the gym. Walking dogs or walking your dog or walking after your meals, taking the steps instead of the elevator or the escalator. I get it. When you're at the airport, I'm at the airport a lot, and I could be rushing. I could be missing my gate time. But one of the things that I take a pride in is trying to walk and get as many steps I can at the airport as possible. And sometimes even running, because I don't want to miss my flight. Also find other ways in your area of influence. We always talk about your circle of influence that you can get more movement. Dr. Dawson says it best: motion is lotion. So that is not just for your joints and just for your muscles. It's also for your blood health and for circulation and for blood pressure health. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is when it comes to we'll talk about a little bit more with medications. Sometimes there are medications out there that you have to be careful for, because when you are taking these medications, you are advised to stay away from certain foods. So if you're taking blood pressure medications, some of them have you say, hey, you got to stay away from potassium, like you can't eat bananas, or you can't eat this fruit, or you can't eat this food that is heavy in potassium. Sometimes they're healthy foods like certain nuts and certain legumes and certain leafy vegetables. Think about that. Think about the madness of it. You are on a medication, and the medication is keeping you away from things that naturally would do the same thing that the medication is doing. So that in itself should be something that tugs in your spirit to say, okay, the math is not math and something's up with this. Now, again, I'm not here to say that your doctor is trying to keep you down. Your doctor doesn't want you healthy. But what I am saying is that you shouldn't rely on your general practice doctor to be your health person. Like, they have a certain function. And you should also make sure, like we say in every episode, have a trusted network of professionals who are catering to your overall health journey. Your doctor is not going to also be there for your mental health. That's a therapist. That's a different professional. That's a different counselor. When it comes to your diet, this is when a nutritionist comes in. This is when a dietitian comes in. When it comes to your heart, this is when you want a cardiologist. When it comes to your eyes, your doctor is not going to do your eyes. They can see things that may be showing up, but you want an optometrist. Same thing with ear, nose, and throat. You want an ENT specialist. All I'm saying is we don't want to treat our health journey reactively. And that's what usually happens sometimes in the States. I worked at a hospital for several years, and that was one of the things I saw often, is that people would come in reactive instead of proactive. If you have a network of professionals proactively and you're getting checked up, now I get it, maybe your insurance doesn't cover it, maybe it does. You'd be surprised what your insurance network covers. And a lot of the stuff we're not tapping into, because guess what? We get pigeonholed. You can't see a specialist unless you're referred. You can't be referred unless something's wrong. So I get it. Sometimes the system is kind of broken, but you do want to get to a point where you do find a naturopathic doctor. You do find a holistic practitioner or herbalist, because guess what? You can now start to navigate what your health journey looks like, and you're not just waiting until something goes wrong, like your blood pressure or some of the red flags we're about to cover in a little bit, before you seek professional guidance. Prevention, maintenance. Prevention, maintenance. That's what we're all about here at the Nutrition and Wellness Guy podcast. So, red flags. We talked about some of these throughout the week. As you know, on Instagram and TikTok, Nutrition and Wellness Guy, that's my handle. And on YouTube, Nutrition and Wellness Guy podcast, or Nutrition and Wellness Guy channel. That's what it actually is for the YouTube. And you'll get to see a lot of content for the health focus, especially for this week. We've already dropped a reel or content about red flags, which I'm going to highlight again here, but go a little deeper. We also talked about MicroHabits this week. We dropped some content on that, and we talked about the superfoods. So if you weren't able to tune into any of those throughout the week, I got you right here, and I get to go a little deeper with it. As well as on the Coach's Corner, we go even more deeper, because I'm like you all. We'll be with a professional, and they'll get to answer some of the questions that we have in regards to blood pressure health. But 3 red flags: frequent headaches or dizziness. So these aren't just random annoyances. This is your body saying, hey, something's up. And usually when it comes to the dizziness, when it comes to the headaches, it's more or less the blood vessels. This is it's giving you a sense that it's under strain. So it's sometimes not like, oh, the lights are bothering me, or I'm just stressed out, or I had a bad day. It also could mean that it could be elevated blood pressure, and your body is trying to slow you down. So your body knows when you have a headache or when you are dizzy, you're going to naturally slow down. I don't know anyone who has a headache and who's dizzy and then goes out and runs a marathon, or goes out and power lifts, or goes out and do something, strenuous. It's just not common. There are some superhumans who do that and they push through it, but naturally the body's going to find a way to wind down. And this is a natural response because your body is telling you that, hey, we can't afford demand right now. We need to get back under regulation because we're overtaxed in a certain area, which is blood pressure. Another thing is swelling in the ankles and the feet. This is a great sign, or this could be a symptom that your blood pressure is not where it's supposed to be. Circulation is slowing and the heart is struggling. When that fluid backs up and when you start to get that inflammation in certain joint areas, that could be a sign that your blood pressure needs to be checked out. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I was on my feet all day, or I just had some salty foods. Yeah, I hear you, but it is a symptom that your blood pressure may not be where it needs to be. This is definitely time for a doctor's visit. This is definitely a time to start checking out your labs, or you just going to get a monitor or going to get one of the cuffs and you check your blood pressure. You shouldn't just be checking your blood pressure for your doctor's appointments. Sometimes you should be looking at things like some of these red flags that are happening and then also check your blood pressure so that way you can get it checked out. Because again, our body is doing a lot of work and our role is to support it and provide a healthy environment for it to do its best. So we have enough to show up for our purpose and we have enough to show up for those who are counting on us. Last but not least, shortness of breath during light activities. So if you feel winded going up the steps or walking, some of the things we were talking about before, your heart is working harder than it should, which means two things. One, you could just be out of shape and not conditioned. So I'm not saying if you started working out of nowhere and then all of a sudden you're winded and now your blood pressure's off the hook. No. I'm saying for those of you who are regularly active, you're not a couch potato, you're not lazy, you're regularly active. And that may not mean going to the gym all the time, but just means you're regularly active and you're starting to find some of those activities are getting you winded. Then this is a sign that your blood pressure may not be supporting you when you need it to support you. So when you do need to crank up the volume on whatever reaction or fight or flight that you're in, and you are having a hard time breathing, that means your heart is not your heart health is not where it needs to be, which means your blood pressure health is also not where it needs to be. Now let's get into some micro habits though. So to combat some of that, some techniques that I have seen worked and that have been researched to help with blood pressure health, morning deep breathing. So we usually, when we wake up in the morning, one of my big things that I try to tell for clients and even for myself, get sunlight right away. Get your cortisol naturally where it needs to be. Get sunlight, find sun, like a plant, find sun and get that charge naturally. Get some lemon water in your system to help with that detoxification process that's naturally happening, but also do some stretching. So do some morning deep breathing, obviously do some stretching, but for this micro habit, it's deep breathing. So when you're up and you are starting your day off, studies show that slow, deep breathing can drop systolic blood pressure by 10 points. So hear me when I say that. Let's say 10 minutes for 10 points. So think about that. If you're at a place where you just check your blood pressure or you having some of the red flags that we just shared, you now need to get to deep breathing. I'm not saying grab the medication or grab this or run to the deep breathing. First, breathe. Breathing is so essential. And if you can understand the power of mindfulness and the power of breathing and the power of prayer and the power of intentionally being in a space where you can control your cortisol, your fight or flight, it does wonders. Trust me. And if you can start your mornings that way, it sets you up for a better day. Number 2, swapping salt for herbs and spices. So garlic, cumin, paprika, they just don't add flavor. They are also good for the body in many ways, but it helps you not need to use so much salt. Garlic alone has been shown to reduce the blood pressure by 8 points in controlled trials. So everyone, for the most part, it's common knowledge that garlic is really good for blood pressure, but the reason for it is that it helps with inflammation and it also helps with circulation, and it's really improving your blood pressure health because of its medicinal factors. You know, it's good raw, it's good lightly cooked. Garlic in your body is pretty good. And then last but not least, micro habit number 3 is walk after meals. I say this just about every episode. And I hope now you say, Dad, go on. There's another benefit of walking after your meals. 10 to 15 minutes. That's all it takes sometimes just to get the circulation going. Post-meal walks lowers blood pressure more effectively than one long workout. Think about that. After you just ate, your blood sugar is responding, things are happening, the body is figuring out what are we storing, what are we burning, is some areas too stored up, do we have too much in some area, too much glycogen. This is when you walk it out. You walk, you move, and you get to a place where your body now knows that, okay, after my human has chewed and ate and consumed, they're now going to start moving around, and this helps us. This helps the organs. This helps blood pressure. It really helps. It's like giving your insides high fives and say, hey, y'all, I got you. I'm going to make sure that now that I know better, I'm going to provide a way better environment for you all. So that way you show up for me and I can show up for those who counted on me. It's that simple. Top 3 foods, and then we'll get into some holistic and naturopathic insights. So beets, leafy greens, and berries. Beets, number 1. They are rich in nitrates. You'll hear nitrates do help with blood vessels and relaxing it. Sometimes nitrates, people put it in their pre-workout because you want to kind of get that opening and that you want to kind of get the movement in the vessels. 1 glass of beet juice can drop systolic blood pressure by up to 10 points in 1 hour. Or in hours, a couple of hours, usually like 2-3 hours. Leafy greens, so they're loaded with potassium, which helps flush out sodium and relax vessel walls. So again, medications, you got to stay away from potassium, but understand this. Potassium and sodium work together to help keep the blood pressure where it needs to be. So sometimes you got to figure out what is the potassium sodium ratio in your body. Last but not least, the berries, my favorite. They're packed with anthocyanins, which improve artery flexibility. Remember that garden hose? And if you're not lubricating it or feeding it things to keep it lubricated or flexible, this is when cracks start to happen. So berries, y'all know is my favorite. It actually helps with the flexibility of the arteries. And regular blueberry intake, this is cool, reduces risk of hypertension by 10%. And that's pretty much it. I mean, stress connection, obviously, like I said, meditate, pray, get grounded. These are all known to help also lower your systolic blood pressure by 6 points. Praying, journaling, just getting to a place of calmness, it actually does help your blood pressure, and it's all natural. Sleep. We always talk about sleep. Get your sleep in. Get consistent sleep. Get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Your body needs a chance to reset. That goes for your blood pressure. It needs a chance to catch its breath. Life is lifing out here, and we be putting our bodies through some really, really strenuous situations. The best thing we can do for it is protect our sleep health at all costs. Check out, I think, episode 3 or 4 for sleep health. That was a really, really insightful episode, especially with our guest, Nancy, Dr. Silver. I think she was on that episode, and it was life-changing, especially for me. And herbal allies. I love herbs. I love spices. Hibiscus tea is your friend when it comes to blood pressure. And also, and not just that, it's been known to drop your blood pressure by 7 points, the systolic number by 7 points. Hibiscus tea, who would have known? Now, be careful with hibiscus tea. You don't want to oversteep it or overburn it. It's one of those teas that, you want to 145, 150, keep the temperature low. You ain't boiling it till the water's bubbling over. No, you just want to warm it. You want to steep it. You want to get an herbal hibiscus tea. You don't want to get dust. You want to get an herbal potpourri-like looking tea, and you want to steep that, and you can chill it. You can do it warm and just drink that throughout the day. If you're having high blood pressure issues, a strategy that I've seen work for others is hibiscus tea. Again, check with your doctor, check with professionals to make sure that aligns with your health journey. And one fun thing, a hawthorn berry for centuries has been used to help support the heart. That's pretty much it. I mean, people think that meds are forever. It's not. With guidance, lifestyle changes, and the reduction of certain foods, alcohols, and smoking can help make sure that you're not on meds forever. Meds are not forever. Also, salt is not the villain. Sometimes it's sugar, it's processed foods, it's stress. They all play a major role too. And hypertension, the myth is that it's permanent. It's not permanent. Lifestyle interventions can reverse it in as little as 3 months. So just know you're not death sentence if you have hypertension, if you're on medication. It's not forever. I'm out of time. But hey, check us out on Saturday, Coach's Corner. Drop your questions in.